You saw some of the sights and sounds of yesterday's total solar eclipse as captured by members of the Weather World team. But I wanted to take some time to recap yesterday's event, go over some of the meteorology behind the event as well, and share some other interesting tidbits. Lots of photos to go over tonight, but first a quick recap of what the path of totality did look like across the lower 48 yesterday, with totality beginning in Texas, making its way off to the north and east, and people did travel far and wide. You'll hear about some folks from the Weather World team traveling as far as Texas. I have some friends who actually made their way all the way to northern parts of New England, dealing with varying degrees of traffic yesterday. But most of the Weather World team that you see on the air frequently were kind of in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York yesterday. Here's a look at the satellite and radar composite during the eclipse yesterday, and you can actually see when the satellite does fade out there. That's because of the lack of sunlight with the eclipse being blocked by the moon. But we were dealing with some clouds and some showers. We had that warm front that crossed Pennsylvania yesterday, and so it became tricky. We were kind of eclipse chasing, like storm chasers do, trying to find where we would see more in clearing. And yesterday became clear by the morning that the farther west that you go, the better the visibility would be. So even by yesterday afternoon, partly cloudy skies across northwest Pennsylvania, but many of us made our way west into Ohio. So Marissa Ferger, John Neese, myself, we were in kind of this corner of Ohio. Meanwhile, Ben Reppert and Bill Cyrette were near Meadville, Pennsylvania yesterday. Some other folks were in New York, but less visibility the farther north that you went. So what did we see? This was the perspective from space, the GOES 16 satellite imagery capturing this over the lower 48 yesterday. Beautiful shadow with the totality. Even better perspective, kind of a wider view of the full disk of the Earth with the eclipse going on yesterday afternoon. We've got plenty of data to look at. This is the Erie Mesonet data, so we've got several sites, part of the Keystone Mesonet. This one situated in Erie that measures soil temperature and moisture. You can see actually where that soil temperature bottomed out and dropped by a few degrees during actually right around the time of totality or just after. And flipping gears, looking at solar radiation, a lot of these sensors also measuring what's coming down from the sun. You can see where that minimizes out and then goes right back up during totality in Erie. Now, we also had instrumentation with us called Hobo instruments. And so Marissa Ferger, myself, Ben Reppert, and actually Dr. Kevin Boley took some instrumentation out, one of which was an infrared temperature gun measuring about a 10-degree temperature drop at the surface. We also had air temperature readings, about 7 to 10 degrees, depending on where you were. And then these Hobo instruments actually measure solar radiation and temperature. Our thanks to Dr. Kevin Boley for giving us some of this instrumentation that he uses for his classes here. Where you see the purples and the greens, that's myself and Marissa. We were kind of situated not terribly far apart. You can see how it matches up closely where we had more in terms of sunshine, some high clouds overhead, but bottoming out. And Ben Reppert in Meadville, not seeing as much sunshine, but still bottoming out during totality. Kevin Boley was situated near Ellicottville, New York, so less in terms of solar radiation there, but everyone's still bottoming out at zero before eventually making our way back up after totality was complete. So the farthest person to travel that I knew of who was related to Weather World, Paul and Mary Knight, made their way all the way down to Uvalde, Texas. Unfortunately, it was a mostly cloudy day, they reported, so some problems seeing the eclipse there. Fred Godomsky was in Erie, Pennsylvania, seeing a mix of clouds and sunshine just in time for totality. But some of my favorite shots, it's really hard to kind of put into words what I witnessed and what a lot of us witnessed yesterday. And it's hard to capture what you see with your very eyes with the camera lens. But some folks did a not too bad job, and they usually used a high power or expensive camera to do so. So our thanks to those who have some of that great equipment to capture some of this beauty. Ben Reppert used his camera in Meadville, Pennsylvania to capture totality. Justin Hassel, a student here in the Penn State Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science, had these beautiful snapshots from Waynesfield, Ohio, as we went through yesterday afternoon. It was really cool to see some of the different components that we've talked about with some of those eclipse facts that we used on the show last week. A lot of us were in a variety of different landscapes, parking lots, wherever we could really make sure that we maximize the visibility of the eclipse. Tyler Morrow, one of our students who works with Weather World, was near Conneaut, Ohio, captured this with the beauty of the lake. I actually was also at a lake, and what was most remarkable, you saw that in some of the video earlier in the show, but the birds kind of going silent. The wind that had been gusty leading up to the eclipse went totally calm, and we actually had the peepers. It felt like nighttime for about a 3.5-minute window where I was near the Lyme, I believe, Wildlife Preserve there in northeast Ohio. Lou Thiebelman, a longtime viewer of the show, captured this snapshot in Camp Hill. Of course, not totality there, but he used his hydrogen alpha telescope, high-powered telescope, to see some beautiful detail with yesterday's eclipse. So we thank you for all the photos you've been sending in. Keep them coming. We love hearing your stories of the eclipse. It certainly was, for those who experienced totality, an unforgettable day. We're back in a moment with more.